Hey, good evening. Welcome to the Board of Damocles. I'm your host, Jim Buchanan, and tonight I'm going to talk about the 2021 games that I liked most. So these are going to be games that were released in 2021, and I will say according to BGG, right? There are some on here that may have been released right before. There may have been some that were, they weren't released in 2022. Let me say that. All right. Well, with an exception, there's one on here that US release is 2022, but it was an Essen release, so, whatever. But either way, so let's dive in, let's get started. All right, my number 10 is a game called Canvas. It's a game that I kickstarted, and it is by Jeff Chen and Andrew Merger, with art from Luan Hun. Apologies if I've said that wrong. Huynh, maybe the right way to say that actually. Publisher was Road to Infamy Games. If you haven't seen this, it is a very pretty game. If you haven't played it, it is a lot of fun. It's a cool game that has kind of some clear card sleeves, if you will, and you're building a scene. You're building a piece of art as you're collecting your things and doing this. I played this with my kids. It was a little bit tough for the younger ones. I played it with my wife, who doesn't really play games. She loved the look of it. Again, that transparencies and building the layers of the art. We've got a background and you're putting some subjects in and some interest and that sort of thing. It was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. It's not really a deck builder, but it is more of a kind of a tableau sort of thing. You have a certain number that you can put together in the first one to get to so many different pieces to deliver those pieces can win. But each one of those pieces has some symbols on the bottom of it, and that's how you score. So when you're drafting these cards, or you're pulling or selecting these cards, you're trying to go for a particular thing that's going to score. It is a lot of fun. I know that's not the best description of it, but it is really pretty cool. I certainly would recommend it. There's an expansion to it coming this year that kickstarted last year. That is my number 10, and that's Canvas. All right, my number 9 is a game called Meadow. I've seen this one a lot higher on other people's lists, and it's just not... It's a great game, don't get me wrong. I love how when you're drafting the cards, you've got those those pointer pieces, the fence pieces or whatever, that you're selecting the row or the column that you're going to draft from, and you're blocking somebody else, and you've got kind of the other board off to the side that allows you to do kind of the same thing, where you can score some points and do all that. I thought it was a really great game. It really is a lot of fun. I played this at BGG this fall. Thank goodness that was back. But it's a really good game. This one is from Clemens Kaliki. Artist is Karolina Kijak, and publisher was Rebel Studio. So sorry for not saying that earlier. But it is a beautiful game. You have land masses, you have different types. You've got animal types, some eating other animals as you're playing them, that you have to have certain requirements to play them on top. And you're building up this huge, wonderful thing. And it's all happening within these different meadows in different environments, right? Absolutely gorgeous game, right? It is a beautiful game, and it does play really well. I'd like to play it again. I did have a lot of fun playing it. I wanted to play it a couple more times, but haven't gotten the chance yet, and I didn't buy it. I don't think it's a game that my game group is really going to be huge on, and that's okay. But at the same time, I do think that if you're a person that likes a game like Wingspan, where it's fairly low key, although I think there's a little bit more player blocking and interaction here within Meadow, but if you're somebody who likes that kind of a game, I think you're going to like this. This is a good game. I'm not saying it's going to take the world by storm like Wingspan did. It's not quite there, but it is really an excellent game. Highly recommended. Okay, my number 8 is a game that I think a lot of people are probably somewhat familiar with, at least. Even if you haven't played it, you've played kind of the precursor to it, or the game that came before it. And this is Dinosaur World from Brian Lewis, David McGregor, Marissa Masura. It's Pandasaurus Games. art. There's a few different artists listed from BGG. Kwanchai Morea, Joe Shawcross, and Andrew Thompson were listed there. If you are familiar with, let me say this, I was massively looking forward to this. I kickstarted it with everything it could get, right? It was great. I got the Jeeples, I got the metal coins, I got all the stuff, right? It was good. I will say it's not my number 8. It's not up there towards the top where Dinosaur Island is one of my favorite games of all time. I think my problem with Dinosaur World, it's not enough different. So if you're familiar with Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur World is going to be easy to pick up. Kind of the phases of the game, super easy to pick up. The big difference, there are other differences, but the biggest difference is you play these tiles and your Jeep or you travel along from your park entrance and you travel along and you create your route. I think that's really cool. I didn't think it was enough different. I didn't think the other mechanics or the other ways that you build your park and all of that were enough different that I wanted to keep playing this more than I would want to play Dinosaur Island, let's say. Same thing. I'm all in on Dinosaur Island with the Extreme Edition and everything else, but I do like Dinosaur Island better. I feel like Dinosaur Island is easier to teach, and I know some people may look at me and be like, you gotta be crazy, but Dinosaur Island, if you teach that game just teach it phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you show people how they score, and you play as you teach, as opposed to just kind of reading out the rules or explaining stuff to people as they're going along. I think you explain that first phase, and here's what you're trying to do, here's how it's going to help you later. And you do that first phase of collecting the DNA or getting your dinosaur recipes and that kind of thing. I really think it helps a lot. You can do the same thing in Dinosaur World. And let me tell you, if I didn't have Dinosaur Island, Dinosaur World would be much higher on this list. It's a good game. So please don't misunderstand me. It is a good game. The only reason it's number 8 on my list of kind of top 10 games played in 2021 games is because it is too much like Dinosaur Island for my taste. But otherwise, it is a great game. Highly recommended. Very good. All right, my number 7 is appropriately Seven Wonders Architects. And I played this several times at BGG, and I'll be honest, when I got into it and thought, okay, yeah, let's play it, I thought, it's quick, it's easy, it'll be fast. Played it like 4 times. It's wonderful. I will got to tell you, a big part of the reason it is where it is you open up that box, and after you've gotten everything punched out, after you've got everything in the box and sorted, that organizer, that set of just here's yours, here's yours, here's yours, is unbelievable. It's so good. It is so well done. And the gameplay with putting the card decks in between, and you've got the card decks out in the middle, and you can draw from whatever you want. It's your turn, and you're comparing, you to your neighbor. The more people, it's just a fantastic game. It is similar in some ways to Seven Wonders Duel. If you haven't played it, just what you're trying to do is build up this wonder, right? So you build your wonder, and that's game, and it's over. And every time you do build a section, you get either bonus points or you get some sort of benefit, that kind of thing. But there's also the science cards that allow you to research and get more benefit that are really powerful and can really plus up your actions and your ability to keep your turn going. I really liked it. It is a lot of fun. It is super simple, and it is a simpler game than Seven Wonders. And a lot of people, when they hear that, they get a little bit turned off by that. Don't be. It is... I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, this is super complex and deep game. It's not Food Chain Magnate, right? It's not Indonesia. I'm going to name something that's not a Splotter game here eventually, right? It's not something like that. I'll even say it's not a Red Raven game. It's not Above and Below, right? It doesn't have that sort of depth and requirement of resource management and things like that. It is very kind of just play. You could sit and play this and have a drink and eat some snacks and do your thing. Could it be a filler game? Yes. Could it also be your feature game? If you've got a whole game night, no. It's not a feature game, but could it be part of, a collection of games that make up a feature for the evening? Oh, yeah, it definitely could. You'll play it 2 or 3 times, 4 times, and people may be, okay, that was a lot of fun, and be done. Or they might want to keep going. It is a really fantastic game, and if you're not really familiar with it, designer just like Seven Wonders, Antoine Bauza, artist on this one is Etienne Ebinger, and publisher is Repos. All right, and really super great. The production quality is off the charts. It is wonderful, and I can't say enough about it. It's really good. That's Seven Wonders Architects. My number 6, Ankh, Gods of Egypt. Now, I have yet to play my physical copy. During the pandemic, we played this on, I believe, Tabletop Sim or something like that, and I played it. Now, I've gotten my physical copy out. We just need to have old game night and play it again. And I know I've talked about it on a couple of different places that, we do new game night so we can get through some of the shrink, and we do old game night so we can replay some games that we want to play again. Maybe we haven't played in a while, or a game like, Rococo that we played just the other night, we would probably drag out again because it's so good. But that sort of thing. But then we also are trying to get through some campaigns, so we do that. This is a game that I think we would get out on an evening, and it would be the only game we'd play in the night, right? It's a fairly long game. It got a lot of bad press, I think, or a lot of mixed feelings. Maybe that's a better way to put it. There was a lot of mixed feelings about that merge mechanic. I loved that. I thought that was really cool. And I know a lot of people don't, and they think it's, it stinks that you've played this whole game and now all of a sudden you have to merge with this other person. It's like, well, but you've played this whole game and you stunk, and now with the merge, there's a chance you're going to win because you're combining your things together. And yeah, I like that. It really puts a lot more pressure on the other players to not just try to whittle down the first player, because now you have this combined group that's coming in. It is really great. I enjoyed the game a lot. Obviously it's an Eric Lang and Come On Games. It is really good. Artist on this one, Adrian Smith did some of the art. Thierry Masson and Nicholas Fructus. Really unbelievable production. The minis are fantastic and wonderful, and I like just about every aspect of this game. The area control in it is great, and kind of moving through the map and how you take over other people's lands and stuff is really great. Kicking people out is really a lot of fun. And the idea that you've got these gods and you need to be worshipped, it's just cool. It is really good. I can't tell you that it is my favorite of, let's call it the trilogy of Blood Rage, Ankh, and Rising Sun. I know a lot of people love Blood Rage more, but I love Rising Sun with 5 players. But still, nonetheless, Ankh is my number 6. Okay, all right. My number 5 is, I haven't seen this on anybody's list, and I like it. It's simple, it's light, it's quick. And that is Cora, Rise of an Empire. And the designer is Headquarters Simulation Game Club. Artist David Chapulet, Jocelyn Jacques Millet, and the publisher is IO. So I will say that part of the reason I like it is it's not really a civ builder. Let me say that. It's not a civilization game. You've got some action selection that you're doing where you've got these tiles, and you pick 2 tiles and you keep them hidden, and everybody picks them all at the same time, and then you reveal what you've got. You roll some dice, which I think this is really cool. I know not a lot of people don't love it, but you roll some dice and you figure out if you can do those actions or not. And if you want to use some other, or do you want to use some of your other values, other things that you've kind of grown your citizens and things like that to plus up the dice, right? So that you can meet a different action that may cost more, because those actions are numbered and that's how much they're going to cost you. It is fun. is a lot of fun. It's really good. You've got a little bit of a combat thing. There's not really any interaction with other players. That'd be my main complaint about the game. So if you're looking for something that's going to give you a lot of conflict, this is not your game. If you're looking for something that's going to give you a little bit of a trying to edge another player out, trying to get there before they do, this is probably your game. Because there's a lot of, oh, if you get to this point, you get bonuses. If you move this up this track, and that's what it is. It's a moving up a track kind of a game. There's 4 different tracks that you're trying to move up. It's also, you've got the military piece of it where you're trying to conquer some stuff. And if you do that, you'll be fine. So that, it is a lot of fun. It is really good if you haven't played. The art's good. I like the layout. I know one of the guys in my game group looked at it and said, oh, it looks boring. It's like, wait until you get it out on the table. It doesn't look as boring. The colors pop a lot more than they do on the back of the box. It is a lot of fun. But that is my number 5, and that is Cora, Rise of an Empire. All right, my number 4 is a game in the Iron Rails series, and that is Iberian Gauge, and this is by Amabel Holland, and it is got art from the wonderful Ian O'Toole. I'll buy just about anything that man does, and the publisher is Capstone Games, at least for the one that I've got. Now, originally this is a Winsome Games. It's kind of a reproduction sort of a thing. If you haven't played Iberian Gauge, this is for the best thing I can tell you, it's kind of an intro to 18xx, right? You are trying to build a route, or actually you've got stock in a particular, you buy stock in one of 5 or 6, I can forget, different railroads, right? So you buy stock in those and you pay for it, and that's how much it's worth. You bid and you say, I'm going to pay this, and that's the opening part. There you go. And you're putting money into the company at that point, right? What you pay for it goes into the company, which is important. That is one of the things I think people get kind of confused by, is the idea that you have your money, you have company money, right? And then you have to spend money from the company to grow the business, right? To grow the railroad. And you're trying to connect it to different cities. In this case, it's Spain and Portugal, right? It's the Iberian Peninsula, hence Iberian Gauge, right? Either way, it is really a lot of fun. There's a whole heap ton to take that. There's a lot of backstabbing alliances if you want there to be. It doesn't have to be, but there can be, and it is wonderful when there is. If that is not your kind of game, you don't have to play this game this way, but somebody in your group probably will, and you'll hate it. If you love that kind of game, well, then this is your game. This is fantastic. It's quick and it's light. It'll take you about an hour to play, and that's one of the things that's wonderful about it. You play it with a full boat of 5 people. It is wonderful. It is really great. But you're buying stock in there, and you are trying to increase the stock price by connecting it to other cities. If you don't connect it to another city, you hurt, right? I mean, you owe money, right? That's not a good thing. So you have to connect it to another city every single turn, and you can only put 1 out per share that you've got. So it's running around. It is really, really great. One train. So you're not necessarily going a long way. And like I said, the money that you're paying out for expanding it is coming out of money that's initially raised by stock price. So you're paying for it, and that's where it goes. And then you get, let's say that there's 5 stocks available and 2 have been purchased. So you look at how much the payout is, and let's say you and one other person own it. Okay, well, you've got the payout, you get some money, they get some money, and then 3 shares worth goes back into the train company, right? And that's important. Again, that's the money that can be used. So what's going to happen at some point is somebody's going to buy a share into your stock or into one of your trains or both of your trains or whatever, because you're doing really well, and they want to hurt you. So what do? They start running a train off into the mountains where it costs more money to to pay for each one you go. So it's using up that bank of money, and it's going nowhere. It's never going to connect to anything. So it is, yeah, it really is outstanding and really wonderful. It's a fun game. It's really great. I have not played Ride the Rails yet. We have played Irish Gauge a lot here, and we've got one guy in the group who hates it. But I think he'll like Iberian Gauge, and we're probably going to play that. It is wonderful. Again, I cannot say enough. If you like that kind of thing, this is your game. If you're an 18xx person, I'm not going to tell you that this is your game. You're going to love this. It's not as long and deep as what you probably want to play. But if you want to scratch that itch and get it done in an hour, Iberian Gauge is your thing. That's my number 4, Iberian Gauge. All right. My number 3 is a game that I played at BGG. It was in the hot games area. I was not really excited to play it. I had read a little bit about it, and it just didn't seem like my kind of game. It's like, I've already got games like that. I'm not interested. But I sat down to play because another person that I knew was playing it, and they offered to teach it. And I said, all right, fine, let's do it. They said, it's really quick, it's easy, you'll like it. All right, okay. Oh boy, I bought it. It is awesome, and that is Furnace. And Furnace is designed by Ivan Lashin, and it's got art by like 6 people. I'm not going to go through them all, but look it up on BGG if you want to. Publisher is Arcane Wonders for the US edition. And Furnace is similar in some ways to Gizmos, in that you're developing kind of a chain reaction sort of a thing. You're developing an engine, right? In this case, what I love about it is you've kind of got this bidding or voting sort of a mechanic where you've got these discs, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got a power that's yours, so you may have an extra disc that's a number 2, but whatever. And you have these cards. Depending on how many people you're playing with, you have 7, 8 cards, whatever, out on the board, and you're going to bid on those cards. And what you do is you put your number down. A 4 cannot be beaten. That is I want this card. I'm going to take it. That doesn't mean somebody else can't put a 3, a 2, or a 1 on there, and I'll explain why they would want to do that here in a second. But when you play your 4, that is the card that you want. You're saying, yep, that's the one I want. Because no one else can beat you, right? And what I mean by that is the person with the highest number disc on that card gets it, okay? And the important thing is you can't put another one of your discs on there, so there can't be another one of the same color, and you can't put one of the same number on there. There may be somebody who can break the rules on that, but still, that's, in general, that's for everybody. That's how it works. So you've got these cards out there. You put a 4 on this one, or you put a 3 on that one, a 2, whatever. So the person with the highest on there takes that card. If you don't win it, but you had a disc on it, at the top of the card, there's usually a couple of resources or a conversion from, say, coal to steel, or steel to oil, or coal to oil, a number of things that could happen there. But again, it could be a resource. You take whatever disc you put on there, let's say you had number 3, and that card gives 2 coal on the top only, right? So it gives you 2 coal. Well, you take that 3, multiply by 2, now you get 6 coal, even though you didn't win. So you get something for having not won that. So there's the strategy for, well, I can get a lot of resources through doing that, but you're still going to need to have a tableau or have a set of cards to make up your engine, your factories down below that are going to create new products and convert those to other things. You've got these discs where you can get upgrades, which is just flipping the card over, and then it gives you an enhanced version of that action that you just paid for, which could be, again, giving you resources and converting those to something else. Could be turning oil to victory points, or steel to victory points, or 1 coal, 1 steel to 2 victory points, something like that. It could be that, or converting it to oil, or converting it to something else. Or creating upgrade chips for you that you can then turn around and use to upgrade other things. Again, you play your engine left to right, and after that turn, you do it all again. And you do it 4 times, 4 rounds. It's pretty quick. If you don't like the way you set up your engine last time, well, guess what? You can rearrange it. So you can run one factory before another one and that kind of thing. It is really outstanding. It is very similar in a lot of ways to Gizmos, but it's different enough that if you have both in your collection, I think they can both live there. And oddly enough, they're pretty close to each other. Furnace and Gizmos, F and G, right? So yeah, anyway, I've got Furnace on my small game shelf. I'm kind of looking at it right now. And then Gizmos is on one of my larger shelves. So I got to tell you though, if you don't have this game, it's inexpensive. It's like $30 on one of the online stores. It's 100% worth it. Go out and get it. It is a great game. Again, that is Furnace. It's by Ivan Lashin and it's from Arcane Wonders. That is my number 3. My number 2, and I will say my number 2 and my number 1 are games that I played at BGG also. So, I use, a lot of times that's what I do. I go to BGG and I play a lot of the new games that I hadn't played before. That's kind of what I go for. In this case, my number 2 is Tabanusi Builders of Ur. And this was really fun. This surprised me a little bit. It's another one of those T games. If you're a board and dice person, Teotihuacan, Sulkin, Tawantinsuyu is another one of those that falls into that T. It's pretty solid. Tekenu was another one. I mean, it's kind of gotten ridiculous at this point. They say they don't do it on purpose, but they do. Either way, this one is from David Spada and Daniela Tassini. It is a wonderful game. The art on it is fine. It's not outstanding, but it's good. It's more colorful than Teotihuacan and Tekenu. Tekenu I felt like was a little bit more colorful than Teotihuacan. I don't dislike either one of them. I love the style of Teotihuacan with that kind of muted color palette. Is really great. Some people hate it. One of the guys in my game group hates it, but the gameplay is so phenomenal. It's so good. Same thing with Tekenu. So good. This kind of pluses it up a little bit. I feel like the mechanisms in this are just a little bit more complex and a little bit harder to grasp that first time through with how you build and you kind of upgrade some stuff when you're pulling off your pieces. But it comes with a whole lot of little plastic buildings and pieces that you drop out onto the map. You are, connecting different areas and building up a region, and then, you get all sorts of it. Yeah. One thing that I think is super duper cool is how you go from, you're saying, okay, I'm going to go, you take your action thing and you say, I'm going to go here and this is where I'm going to do my action. And then I'm going to, and you take the die off for that, and you can use that for resources or whatever. You can set it to the side and it's done and it's used up. And that's triggering kind of a refill action by having these dice out there. So the number of actions, the number of times that space can be used. But you put that there, and then you take your architect and you move them to a different one, and that's going to be where your next action is. So then you'll take your next turn, you'll take that action, you'll move it over there, and there you go, and then you're moving it again. And I'm going to tell you, you're not just telegraphing what you're doing. It's giving everybody else an idea of where you're headed and what you're doing, what you're going to score, how you're going to score, and it gives them, if they want to play this way, it gives them an opportunity to stop you. And that's an interesting mechanic, and it is a lot of fun. I cannot wait for this game to get released in the US. It is not out yet. It's out. It was an Essen release, I believe, and it is out, in Europe and in other parts. I know some of the online retailers have gotten theirs. I was actually just on the Discord chat earlier today with Board and Dice saying, hey, any news on where it is? And they said, well, they should be getting them any day now if they don't have them yet. So they're working through it. Hopefully mine is going to ship next week. That's my hope. So I cannot wait to play it again. It was a ton of fun. But it is very much in the same vein of Teotihuacan and Tekenu. Different mechanics, but similar in that it is got that same level of depth and that same level of complexity. It's not going to be an easy game for you to learn. It's going to take a little bit to sit down and do it. And I would highly recommend kind of running through that rule book, reading it, playing a little bit of it, and then starting over and kind of doing that. I think that's going to help a lot. That's what we did. We played it the night before a little bit, played like 2 or 3 rounds, and then next morning sat down at it again and said, okay, yeah, let's play for real. So that's my number 2, Tabanusi, Builders of Ur. Now, I'm going to apologize for my voice. Got some stuff, right? But either way, we are at number 1. And this one I've seen not so much as as number 1 on a lot of people's lists. It's certainly very high for a lot of folks. Again, BGG Hot Games, and you probably know what this is if you went to that. It is a big, monstrous game. I loved it. It's fantastic. And that is Ark Nova. Ark Nova is about building a zoo and creating conservation efforts and doing all the things you can do to release animals into the wild, and at the same time, paying for snake habitats and just whatever. It is awesome. It's got a little bit of tile laying and kind of a puzzle that goes on your own board. There's not a massive amount of player interaction other than like taking stuff from other people and that kind of thing, which is huge on one board. Not so much on some other areas, but you've got this central board that kind of is laid out that as you increase in your own zoo's appeal and kind of how much you can serve or how much you're funding conservation efforts, there's really 2 mechanisms that make this game truly fantastic. And I say 2 mechanisms, there's 2 elements to it. One's a mechanism and the other one is more just the triggering of the end game. Let's start with that one. If you've played Rajas of the Ganges, this is going to be super familiar to you. You've got 2 tracks. One is your conservation track, one is your appeal track, kind of going on around the outside. As those victory points for appeal start adding up and you're chasing your way around the corner and your conservation efforts are increasing coming back across. Once those 2 pass each other, that's going to trigger end game. You finish that round and I think you play one more. And for everybody who has met, where those 2 have crossed, whoever is furthest apart wins. That's pretty cool. I do really like that because it does require you to travel down 2 different tracks that aren't opposing by any means. They can be very complementary. And I really do like that. I think that is a really cool element, but it is not my favorite element. My favorite element is the kind of action, the selection that you use with these cards that you've got. And so you've got these 5 cards in front of you. You've got an animals card and you've got some others that are that determine what action you're going to do. And they're slotted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That slot that they're in is the power of that card. If you've played Civilization: A New Dawn, you know this mechanic. You know this, this card thing. As you play a card, it goes back to the back and everything shifts to the right. And as you move to the right, that action, you can keep pushing that other action up, it gets more and more powerful. Now, you can get kind of little cheaty things that allow you to play it and say, oh, this 4 is really a 5 kind of thing, and bump that up, or this 5 is a 6. Not sure if you need that. But either way, you've got that. I love that. Now, the other game that people will compare this to, I say the other game, the game most people will compare this to is Terraforming Mars. It's got a lot of cards, so it's fair, right? Let me say that first of all. It is a fair comparison. I like this more than Terraforming Mars. I think there's other elements to this that make it so much better. But it has that same, hey, I have this action, and in order to play this, I have to have these requirements by having these tags on these cards, and that's part of why I think people are seeing it this way. And it's got a little bit of an engine buildy sort of thing, but not as much. The milestones and other things are a little different in this. They're similar, where Terraforming Mars is a co-opetition game, meaning that you're all trying to raise the oxygen level. You're all trying to raise the heat. You're trying to put out the lakes, right? The water. You're trying to get all that out. Everyone's trying to do that, and that is going to trigger the end game. Everybody's trying to push that up, and that can potentially help everybody. You doing it helps you, but it opens it up for other people's cards, that kind of thing, right? That's Terraforming Mars. This game doesn't do that. What you do in your zoo is what you do in your zoo. There's very little that you're going to do that's going to positively affect someone else. There's not a global, hey, there's a, we need to really, make sure we're both conserving wild African lions. That's not going to happen. You're not going to both be doing that and going to be adding to each other's thing. It's not going to happen. I will say the art in the cards and the art in the game, I like. I heard some folks on another channel saying that they typically don't like real photography on cards in board games. I agree with that. I usually don't either. Terraforming Mars and that dumb dog, right? But part of the reason that was a problem is because that was the only one that had that. Whereas in this game, they're all like that. It's all stock photography. It's all scientists doing things or rangers out doing stuff in the wild or animals. And it's the pictures of your tamarin and your lion and your elephant and tiger and all that stuff. But all of those cards, all of those things, all of those pictures and everything else, all the animals that are on, they look great. It's good photography. It's well done, and it fits really well with the theme of the game. It is the theme of the game, but it helps reinforce that. And I really, really love this game. I will tell you, I think this is probably one of my favorite games that I've played in the last, it's probably in my top 5 of games I've played in the last 2-3 years. I want to play it several more times, otherwise, just to be sure. But here in the U.S., Capstone is publishing it. If you're kind of running through, some of the things that Capstone has shown up a few times on my list, right? They are knocking it out of the park. They're doing such a good job. But Capstone's publishing it. Artists, Loic Bilyau, Dennis Lauhausen, Stefan Beeker. Again, most of it is stock photography. There is some really good graphic design on there. There's a decent amount of iconography in this game. And by decent, I mean a lot. But the cards tell you what those mean. The context is always good. I have a hard time with not being able to pick it up. It is really good. On the left side in red, you've got, these are the requirements. On the right side, those are the tags that you get to add. It's great. The additional actions you get to do are pretty cool too. It's just fantastic. But I'm going to tell you that Matthias Wiggy, Viga, I'm not sure how to pronounce that last name, but great game. Really, really great game. Graphic design's good. Everything about this game is fun. Laying it out on the table, it's got good presence. It doesn't overstay. The other thing that I think they did exceptionally well is they gave you hey, if this is your first game, here's how you play. And you go through and they walk you through your first 4 turns, 3 turns, whatever it is. They give you here's your step 1. Here's what you do. Play this card. Start with this hand. Play this card. Do this. You can teach this game fairly quickly if you walk through that. And then you reset, shuffle cards up, deal them out again, and you're going to need to look in the book. You're going to find stuff that you didn't get in that first 4 or 5 turn thing that you've got. But if you pay attention to what everybody else did during that, it's going to tell you 80% of the game. The other 20% is where you're going to win or lose. But nonetheless, it's going to give you just about everything you need. And it is wonderful. Could not recommend this one enough. That is Ark Nova. That is my number 1 game of all the games I played that were released in 2021. And I'll run through some others here in just a minute, but I really appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. All right, so if you want to know what else I played that was released in 2021, I think there's a few others that I don't have on my list here, but Railroad Ink., the new stuff, the Lush Green and the Shining Yellow. I like both of those. Those didn't make that top 10 list. Azul, Queen's Garden did not make my list either, and that actually may be a 2022 game. but I did play it, and I did like it. Excavation Earth pained me to put it this low because I think David Tutsi is phenomenal, and it's my favorite game is Anachrony, and yeah, anyway. So, Excavation Earth, it was good, but I just didn't love it. All right, and then Sleeping Gods, a lot of people really loved it. We played through the campaign. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's boring. It was co-op. I didn't love it. I just didn't. I liked some of the mechanics. I liked some of that stuff, but it just didn't love it. Having said that, I'm gonna play through it solo and see if I like it more doing that. Maybe I just had the wrong group. That just wasn't kind of the right group to play that game with. Either way, really fantastic game. I also played Savannah Park. Not my thing. It was fine, but it's not my kind of game. So there you go. I'm also going to give hey, best of games that were new to me in 2021. I'll probably put that out here in a few days as well. But looking forward to showing you that one as well. But thank you very much for watching. Again, my name's Jim Buchanan, and this has been The Board of Damocles. This was my top 10 games released in 2021 that I played. Thank you for watching.